Nemo Radio is on the air.
A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
All right, welcome back to another episode of Nemo Radio. Super excited for this episode. Have a guy with some of the best personal branding I've seen, Jeff Rowe. we gotta talk about the whole story behind the brand, but I want to quickly introduce Jeff Fulkerson, aka Jeff Rowe, is on a mission to rid the world of terrible websites. So in 2016, Jeff founded this is another great name, Bro Web Technologies, with the goal of helping get local businesses to be successful online. Jeff believes every business needs a professional website, even if your actual services don't involve anything digital, which is interesting. And Jeff personally knows the impact a great website or fro, which we're going to get into, can have on your image and the perception of others, and wants to help other business owners stand out, be represented online in the best way possible. Jeff, aka Jeff Rowe, welcome to Nemo Radio.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited for our conversation.
I gotta start with and obviously we're doing audio only, so people can't see your amazing hair right now. My first thought was what happens if Jeff has sudden hair loss? The whole brand is done.
I know. Fortunately, my mom's dad, my maternal grandfather, has had a head full of hair when he died, so that's usually a good sign.
Right. The genetics are working for you. You're not like my college roommates that were already bald at 19. So you're in good shape. So tell us I always like to start and have just a fun conversation. And we're going to talk a ton today about websites, and especially for coaches and consultants and small business owners, which is kind of your kind of sweet spot. And that was what was exciting to bring you on to give them advice on what goes into a great website and some of the different, strategies and tactics. But I always like to hear, start with your story. So if you don't mind indulging us, kind of your backstory, your hero's journey, how you got to what you're doing today.
Sure. Well, we can start with the hair, obviously, because that's a big part of the branding, like you mentioned. So I didn't know I had curly hair until high school. I always kept it short. I had a crew cut. It was easy, and I didn't have to think about it. But my mom was always like, "You should grow out your hair." And so I finally did one summer between, I think, 10th and 11th grade. And hey, it was curly, and I had a fro, and people liked it, and it drew attention. I'd be walking through the halls between classes in high school. Somebody reach out and touch my hair. I'm like, "Who was that? I don't know." And so just random people like that. And I've told this story before, if someone else has heard me, but I was at the boardwalk one time walking with my family, two girls on bikes going the opposite direction. One of them almost crashes her bike trying to reach out and touch my head as she goes by. I'm like, okay. So it gets noticed, it gets the attention, it is unique. And so I've kept it for pretty much since then at various lengths. I think the longest I had it was maybe 9 or 10 inches. It was pretty long. At that point, it was getting so heavy, it was not really holding itself up anymore. But I had it through college, and that's kind of where I picked up the nickname Jeff Rowe, because my name is Jeff. Obviously, I had a fro, and it works well together. And it helps that there's a name Jethro, TH, from Jethro Tull and all that. So it's accepted as a name. It just works. It all fits. So that was before I knew anything about personal branding, but people knew me on campus. I ended up winning Homecoming King, which helped my campaign. It was like, go with the fro, or whatever I said at the time. Which is great. So, I've had other jobs since graduating. I did computer science. And so that's my background, programming. And I was always building computers and doing websites on the side growing up. And so as I continued doing these things on the side, I figured, I need to just start my own company so I can focus on this. And I started initially doing websites, but quickly realized, businesses, they say they want a new website, but what they really want is more customers. And so knowing that, I can help them build a website to achieve those goals and also add more services to help get people to the website in the first place. So SEO, ad management, and all of that. Because the website is one piece of the puzzle, but people still have to see it. It doesn't matter how good it looks if it's just sitting there in the dark. So that's how I started expanding my agency and offering these services. And I love working with small businesses because this can make such a big impact. And a lot of these companies are just so reliant on referrals that, business ebbs and flows, and they just hope that enough comes in each month to make rent or whatever. Seasonal businesses as well, this can really affect them. So by getting together a strategy for SEO or ads, whatever it is, we can help smooth that out and take a lot of the stress off of the backs of these business owners. So that's kind of the quick overview of me and ProBro.
I love it. And there's so many good lessons already to unpack. And the first one I want to kind of park on for a moment is the personal brand. And like one of the things I always talk about with my clients is people need a narrative to attach to you. Like you have to be memorable. The biggest sin in marketing is to be boring. And so if you think about how, all businesses now are commoditized, right? Web design, like you can't like swing a stick and not hit 20 of them, right? Like same with what we do, LinkedIn lead generation, everything else. So it's like, what makes you unique, different, and better is you, right? It's your unique story, your personality, communication style. And I think kudos to you for doing a really good job of that. And I think the other thing too that comes across, that's a great lesson for everybody listening, is Jeff is making it very clear in his branding, his copy, his approach, his visuals, like he's fun. Like it sounds like it would be fun to work with you guys. And is that something you intentionally think about to that degree? Or is it more like, hey, this is just something that feels normal and I'm going to go with it?
Yeah, I want there to be that element of personality because like you said, that's what sets you apart. And I want to do that for my clients too. Not necessarily the same as me, but I want to make sure that who they are in their business comes through because otherwise it is just another website. It's another website listing the services that you provide. I can find hundreds of those. Why should I stop at yours? Because at that point you're competing on price and that's a race to the bottom and you're going to lose. So if you can differentiate yourself somehow, that allows you to charge more, provide better service, and ultimately be a better company. So it's a win-win when you think of it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing I really like too about what you said just in the beginning here was you're figuring out, sell people what they want, right? And give them what they need. And, what people say they want and what they do want is more clients, more customers. What they need is a website. And so just selling a website in and of itself isn't as exciting as saying, and that's the other lesson is the benefits, right? Like if you want more clients, you want more customers, you got to have a good website, right? Instead of, hey, you need a website. So with all that said, let's get into some of the nitty gritty and some of the expertise that you provide. One of the things to start with is just how do people, I like your talking points. They're fun. Like, how do you make sure your website isn't terrible? How do you make sure your website isn't awful? Let's start there because we work with a lot of clients who will say to us by their own admission, like, yeah, my website's terrible. I built it myself or it's outdated. And like, what are the common things that you see and that you advise people to avoid to make sure that their website isn't hurting them?
Sure. So I think there's a lot of times business websites, not much thought has gone into them. It's kind of like a checklist item that I'm starting a business. I need to get a domain, put up a website, and then they move on and do all these other things. So they usually pick the quickest and easiest option. Could be a template from GoDaddy, or they spend a couple hours themselves to figure it out. But so that's usually where it stays. Then they move on and run the business for 5 years, and they're like, "Why does your website look terrible?" It's because they didn't spend time on it. There was no intentionality or thought there. So I mean, that's the number one overarching tip, right? Is spend some time on it, figure out what your messaging should be, who you're talking to, and what you want it to look like, and realize that you doing it yourself, you might not be an expert in those things. So you might need to hire someone who is, right? You want the website to represent your brand well, to make you look professional, because this is your first impression when someone finds you on Google. They clicked your link. Now they look at it like, oh, if that's their response, that's a problem. They leave, they go to the next entry in Google. You don't want them to see something that isn't polished just because they judge you based on that appearance, and they transfer that judgment to you and your services, even though it's an unfair assessment. Just because you didn't make a good website doesn't mean you're not good at pest control. But if you didn't spend the time and the detail attention here, they assume you're not going to spend that time there. And especially because there's groups that are scams. Somebody will take your money and never show up. So people want to know, or at least feel better about hiring a company that looks legitimate, established. They want to see some reviews, some effort put into the marketing that suggests they're here for the long term and investing in their own company. So that all plays into it. So we can get into more specifics into how to do that, but that's kind of the big picture.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think that's all really helpful. And it is something I see a lot where people have put something up and then kind of forgotten about it. And then to your point, the minute you kind of connect with someone, and obviously we do it all through, LinkedIn, but again, people are going to immediately kick the tires on you digitally. They're going to put your name in, your company name. We can polish up your LinkedIn profile, but what about your website? And, I've honestly worked with some clients where I'm like, it would actually behoove you not to send anyone to your website. Like, it will actually hurt your brand, like it's that bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, let's keep everything on LinkedIn. Like, we don't want them going over there. So I think that is a definite pain point that people need to deal with. So, talk about what goes into a good website. Like, if I'm a coach, if I'm a consultant, let's stick with them for right now. And my goal is to get people interested in me. I'm a personal brand. I want coaching clients, consulting clients. What's kind of your overarching strategy to make that site effective? What does the homepage look like? What do the other pages look like? Just kind of riff on that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing I usually do is have a longer meeting with that client, and I want to understand them and their business as much as possible. And that's where I try to draw out what they want versus what they need, and make a plan from there. Because the better I can understand that, the more I can apply that to how we design the site. And so a big piece of that is the messaging, knowing who they're trying to reach and changing their headlines and their copy to be very specific and to do a certain thing. So we want to figure out, okay, is this website to turn new visitors into customers? Is it to provide resources to existing customers? Is it for investors? Because those are all different things. And sometimes the answer is yes to 2 or 3 of those. And so we need to decide what that looks like and how do we do that without one getting in the way of the other. So let's say you have to do all 3. We would want to do separate landing pages that go into more detail, talking to each of those particular target clients. But the homepage can then serve as more of a menu, or, the info booth that you stop at first when you get to the expo, because it kind of gives you a map. It's like, okay, if you want this, you go here, here, or here. It's very clear and easy, and you just send people where they're meant to go, and then they get what they need.
Yeah.
And obviously that changes if there's only one target. Okay, we'll just dive right in on the homepage maybe. But then we can craft each page separately with the call to action. So for an investor, what we want them to do is maybe book a call with us or donate directly. And so we'll build the message around that. We'll have call to actions throughout the page. And that's going to change for the others as well. And obviously, once we know this, we know the messaging, we can build the layout and the design around it to support that messaging. The design should look good and polished and professional without getting in the way and being distracting. So there's that fine line there of being interesting without, distracting from the main goal, which is to get them to contact you. So those are kind of the first 2 parts, the messaging and the design. And then we actually go and implement the site. We build out the pages. We make sure it looks good on different screen sizes. It's responsive. Make sure it loads fast. That's something else we can talk about that makes a big difference. Just because speed is a ranking factor for Google, but it's also a user experience thing, right? If people are coming to your site and they got to sit there for 5 seconds, they're not going to wait that long. Sadly, our attention spans are short, but we're so used to things coming up immediately now that you really have to spend time to make sure your site is optimized to come up quickly. And so we optimize it, we test it, we push it live. That's typically the stages that we go through. But you have to make sure you hit on all those points, because otherwise, whatever your weakest link is, you're still going to have a problem driving people all the way through to that end conversion.
Yeah, it's fantastic advice. I mean, I think it's so true, especially the user experience, which a lot of people don't think about. But, even is it mobile responsive and mobile friendly, and does it load easily? And, especially like if you're not on super fast internet, will it still load quick? Or do you have like crazy movies popping up that slow everything down?
Right.
All of which, you'll see. What's kind of your, opinion, I guess, on traffic? Because I know that's obviously a big piece of it. Is you alluded to earlier, like you can have the shiniest, prettiest website on earth, but if no one knows about it and no one's visiting it, it's a waste of, all that effort. So what are you seeing like currently right now today as the best ways to get traffic to websites just across the board?
Before I jump into that, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. So at the implementation phase for our site, we talk about any functionality that they want on the back end, beyond just having, what the site looks like. So the simplest functionality would be a contact form, right? But you can build on that. And when someone submits something, you can have multiple things happen. You can drop files into Dropbox or Google Drive. You can send emails to multiple people depending on which dropdown was selected. You can hook this into your CRM so you start dripping out content. Any of that stuff, that's really helpful for a business that hasn't done any of that stuff, because that's how you start generating. You start how you nurture leads and build a system to save time on the back end. Even if it's streamlining things, like I did a parade website where we did some of those things. We took the signature in the form, we dropped the photos into the Dropbox and sent the document that we generated, the PDF, over to the people that need to approve it. So you got rid of the paper forms that were being mailed and faxed in, and so it just saves the volunteer time. So anything like that that's customized to the business, I like to include that on the back end, because that's the other element that you don't typically see. We think of a website as what it looks like when you first get there, but how it functions on the back is important too.
Yeah, I think it's worth pausing on that for a second, because the back end is so critical. And I don't think a lot of small business owners, coaches, consultants know the, kind of breadth and depth and width of all the tools now and all the automations and all the systems and all the processes. And frankly, it is very confusing, right? So it's like, Zapier. Okay, well, how do you connect 16 different apps to all talk to each other? And so I think it is worth having an expert like yourself who can say, like, tell me what you need to happen. And then you can kind of connect all the tools under the hood so that, yes, when they fill out a form, it spits out, sends them this, sends them that, puts them in this automation, tags them here, moves them over there, which is brilliant. So thank you for sharing that too. I think that's a key element for strategy. So talk to me about traffic. Like, what are you seeing, across the board working best for, your clients, the different websites that you work on? Like, is it certain types of ads, certain types of social channels? Is it SEO? Is it all the above? And yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, sometimes we would usually cater the campaigns to the business, right? Because depending on who their target clientele is, those people might be hanging out in different areas online. So they might be in Facebook groups in case, okay, we'll want to go find them or run Facebook ads. But Facebook ads are getting more expensive. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind with budget. So Google ads are typically pretty effective because you can get specific. There's already intent behind the search. And so you're getting in front of the people that are looking for your services. So I tend to like those, especially for service-based businesses. In general, but LinkedIn automation is another one, again, depending on the type of business, but we can come up with campaigns to reach out with very specific people, with roles in an organization. And so it's very targeted, and you can say, they're interested in hearing from you as opposed to just blasting it out to anyone who's going to ignore you. So those are a couple. TikTok ads are actually doing really well for small businesses right now. There's a lot of room for growth still. I know it's a newer platform. Some people are, not so sure about it, or they think of it as just for dancing teenagers, but that's not the case anymore. And a lot of businesses are doing really well on there, and their ads are much cheaper than Facebook ones.
Those are all good. Yeah. I mean, those are all interesting tips. And I do like the overall strategy of where are your ideal prospects hanging out already, right? If they're all on LinkedIn because they're professional and B2B, it makes sense to make hay there. If they're more, moms that like crafts, okay, Pinterest, Instagram, it is true. Like, you have to know where they are. I'm curious about SEO, because that is always kind of this, it feels like a moving target. It feels like it's always changing. I don't know anyone that goes past the first page of Google right, to look for anything. So, of course, being a small business owner myself, like I have multiple websites and some rank really well and I see the organic traffic and some like it's just crickets and tumbleweeds. And it's kind of like, I don't really know what I did or stumbled into. Like, what are some current kind of, I guess, best practices, ideas, strategies that you implement for a client website with SEO?
So I love SEO, and I recommend everybody does SEO in addition to whatever ad or paid campaigns that you're doing, simply because a lot of people do skip ads. Like they see that it's labeled as an ad and they go right past it. So you kind of want to be in both places. That being said, for a local business, local SEO campaigns are a little different than national, just because, since they are localized, you can take advantage of things like the Google Map Pack and be one of those 3 that show up next to the map with your reviews right there. Okay. Because if you can get in that top 3, you're going to get a ton of business. Yeah. And so it's worth investing a little bit of time to optimize your Google business profile, to optimize your website, to make sure that Google understands what your site is about, so that it can show you to the right people. And then you just have to build up authority and relevance with backlinks and such, so that you outrank your competitors. And depending on your niche, that could be easy to do or harder to do, which is why SEO sometimes takes a while. I usually tell my clients, we'll probably get some quick wins, especially if you've never done SEO before, because we'll do some of the basic changes and suddenly you'll jump up. I had a client go from page 5 to page 1 in a few days just because we made some tweaks. Google reindexed their site and they're like, oh, this is where you belong, right? And it's sometimes that simple. But then to go from number 8 on page 1 up to number 1, that's a slower climb, because that's now you're in the top ranking people who have also invested in SEO, and you have to start competing against them. So if you want to rank well for something, you want to make sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot. A lot of people try to rank for all the keywords at once. I typically say, let's pick one keyword phrase per page. That way we can stay focused on it. Have a separate page for each service or product that you offer, and then have lots of text that's helpful and useful on that topic. Because that way you're separating it out. You're not cannibalizing your own efforts by having multiple pages on your own site fighting for the same eyeballs. And feel free to jump in anytime if you want to poke at any of this stuff. But that's kind of the overall approach. So there's the website side, the technical, there's the Google business profile, which I view under the SEO umbrella. And then there's getting the backlinks, which helps build your authority in the eyes of Google.
Yeah. And I think that's where I've seen the biggest jump, which I didn't realize. I've done all the, just talk about my own experience. But the backlinks, the one site I have that's really powerful, it's the oldest site and it has the most backlinks from big legitimate sites. So one of the ways I built my audience was guest blogging. So back in the day, I would guest blog for Inc. magazine and guest blog for American City Business Journals and guest blog for Social Media Examiner. And then they would let me put links in back to a page on my site. Mm-hmm. And I see today, that's why that site gets 20x any other page.
And it's still paying dividends.
Yeah, which is crazy because I haven't guest blogged for 7 years. But those links haven't gone away. Inc. didn't take down my articles because they want the content too, right? It's win-win for them to have a bunch of LinkedIn articles. So it's interesting how, and then other sites I get pitched at least 2-3 times a week for people wanting to place articles on my website. And I'm always, is that just people wanting to get backlinks? Is that basically the whole purpose of that business? Yep. Okay.
Pretty much. This highlights a key difference between running ads versus doing SEO. Let's say you do a year of ads and you stop getting traffic.
Yeah.
But if you do a year of SEO and you stop paying your SEO agency, you should still keep getting traffic because now you're ranked there and you've got this content and these backlinks that aren't going to disappear, at least not for a while, hopefully, that will still keep you highly ranked.
Yeah, and I haven't published any new content on that site for a year or two, and it's still the same traffic amount, the same. So that's interesting. Yeah, it kind of proves out your point. Oh, interesting. Well, what other advice do you have? I know one of the key things, I get asked this all the time when we work with clients for lead generation, I need to update my website. I don't know who to pick or how to choose. What advice would you give people, especially, again, small business owner, coach, or consultant? What questions should they be asking? What should they be looking for in choosing, a partner to build a website for them?
Well, let me highlight the difference between like a freelancer versus an agency or professional site, as I would call it. So a freelancer, they might be able to do all the things that we talked about earlier, right? They could use a template or come up with a design. They could write some headlines and stuff, and actually publish a website that works. Whereas with an agency, you have a graphic designer do the design. You've got a copywriter doing the messaging, and then you've got your webmaster who is an expert implementing the site and optimizing it to load quickly. So you're going to end up with a much better result that actually works towards your goals of conversion. Because at each step, we put more thought and effort and those years of expertise into it, as opposed to just one guy doing it. So I know budget's always a factor, and you'll probably spend more with an agency than just with a guy. But that's the reason, because you're getting more for your money. I mean, the end result will pay for itself. So what you want is a website that will give you an ROI. So if it wasn't built with that in mind, knowing that those are your goals to bring in clients, then it's never going to do that. It's just you pay it once and it'll sit there. Whereas if you've built that in to, okay, now we've got lead magnets on the page that hook into our, drip campaign. All right, that's going to keep working for you, and it'll pay for itself real fast.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I've heard that a lot. It's interesting. I hear from a lot of clients, I spent 20 grand on that site. It didn't do anything for me. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? They're like, well, I don't know. And it's like, and then I look at the website, I'm like, well, it's not designed to get you any clients. It's just a brochure. There's no opt-in. There's no way to get more. There's no, you can see strategically, it wasn't set up with an end goal in mind. And that's that whole point you talked about earlier. You gotta have a plan here. What do you want to do with people who land here? Where do you want them to go? What do you want them to do next? It's not just about promoting yourself, because they're going to read it and forget and move on. So Jeff, tell us what goes into, the hidden question you talked about, before you hire an agency, what should you be looking for? What kind of checklists or different ideas?
Yeah, that's the big question. How do you tell before you spend all the money and you're sad at the end? I'd say definitely look at the reviews and testimonials, because if they just say things like, hey, great job, got it on time, looks good, that's probably not what you want. But if the testimonials say, oh, I'm getting way more quote requests than I got before, this website is awesome, or my phone keeps ringing, I'm so happy with this result, the team was great to work with, and now I had to hire 4 more people. Those are the things that you want to see in the testimonials to let you know the website was built with that end goal in mind. And the other thing is just, you can ask for examples and look at them, make sure that it does load fast, make sure it has some calls to action on it and things that are leading people to want to hire them. And it's not just a list of services. It's actually talking to you or to their target client, right? So that's how you get a feel for it.
Fantastic stuff, man. Okay. Well, before I let you go, is there anything else we didn't touch on today that you think is important to get across or for people to know about?
I'll give you just a quick SEO tip that's super easy. If you're running your own website, not ready to hire someone yet, at the top in your title tag, if you still say home, you need to fix that, because what you're telling Google is my website is about something related to home. There's millions of websites that say home and then a brand name. So Google can't make heads or tails of that. So it doesn't know if you're home renovation. Are you building homes? Do you do home flooring? It doesn't help. So put in some keywords there about your business. Maybe it's, rat and mouse pest control. Put that in there, because that's what people are going to be typing. What's something that someone's going to type? Put that in your title tag along with your business name. You'll see a bump in your rankings. So do that.
That's a fantastic one. I'm I got to go look at my homepage right now. I bet I'm busted. Well, I love it. Well, Jeff Fulkerson, AKA Jeff Fro, how can people find more? How can they learn more about your services? Where should we send them?
You can go to frobro.com. Should be easy to remember there. You can see all the services that I offer, and there'll be several buttons to contact me, set up a meeting, and I'd love to talk to you. I can do a free SEO audit of your website, let you know how you're doing and how we can help.
That's fantastic. It's frobro.com, FROBRO.com. Again, dude, I love your branding. It's just so good. It's so memorable and fun, and makes people want to engage because, and your personality matches it. So again, thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on the show.
Sure thing. Thanks again for having me.